Hello dear students, welcome to the second lecture of the course on Introduction to Research Techniques, Level 1. In the first lecture, we have seen that research can be seen as a fundamental behavior of humans because of our curiosity, because of our wish to improve our environment and our life. And whatever the research is, it can be in English literature, human biology, psychology, whatever. It can always be written down as an answer. Like for instance, how can I improve the psychological stability of traumatized children? For instance, how can I improve urban planning? Why is urban planning sometimes so poor? And so on and so forth. And basically, when you have a question, you have an answer. I added a picture that may be familiar if you live in the mountains of Central Asia. And you can imagine that for a question as simple as, for instance, wondering, is one city warmer than another? So is the capital of Afghanistan, Kabul, warmer than the other city of Jalalabad? Sounds like a really simple question. So we can imagine that there is a truth somewhere, that the truth exists. But the truth is really, really high. The truth it's here, and that's where we want to go. And just to make sure that you don't keep your illusions too long, there is no way straight and easy to the truth. Okay, if you say if you prefer Jalalabad and you say yes, it's warmer, or just because you were once and it was warmer and you think yes, maybe you're closer to illusions and mistakes than you think. So yes, this truth exists. This truth can be sometimes more complicated than a simple point. It can be more sometimes of a region. But for sure, when you have a question, you want to look into this direction. And sometimes you cannot even reach this. If you think, I will give you this really simple example. Think about your age. What is your age? For instance, your age is 22 years old. Is that exactly 22 years old? No, of course, it's some month, maybe weeks, days. But is that just weeks, days? No, it's hours, minutes, seconds. And each time you think, when you give the answer, probably you are always a few seconds, a few minutes off. Even the moment of your birth, probably there is an uncertainty of a few minutes. Some people have an uncertainty of years on their birth. So what is your age? It sounds like a really simple question, but you can see that the truth is not obvious. But there is a way to reach it, or at least to get close by. And this, like when you hike into mountains, really often you don't go straight. You need to go from one place to another, and you go down and then go up and go down and go up. And also, especially if the trip is long and dangerous, you have different steps. When we talk about research, first you need to prepare yourself. Like just thinking about what you want to do, how you're going to do that. And this, don't underestimate this part. Because this part is going to lead you directly to findings and resources. In some research, well, you will need, for instance, you will need a car to go in a village and make a survey. So you will need at least to pay for the gas. You may need to hire someone. You may need a computer. And also, once you have done that, you need to learn about past experience. Learning about past experiences, talking about with people, of course, but reading what have been written on the subject or on a similar subject. Once you have done that, you can hope to start go close to the measurements. The measurement in itself is not the end, because you need to gather these measurements through complex method of statistics that you will see in the level 2 of this course. Doing some data analysis, and by God, this part is complicated. And then you have to write, and believe me, the part of writing take you closer to the truth, because you need to exchange with peers, you need to explain what you have done, and sometimes you get a comment or a question that make you rethink and sometimes go back down here or go back down here. And this long process will take you closer to the truth. It is long, it is difficult, it is frustrating. How do we deal with such long projects? Well, it's like if you need to tie a long rope that is really complicated. How are you going to tie it? Well, you cut it in small pieces and then you tidy each pieces. So how do you deal? First, you need to have realistic expectation. Of course, you can have short, middle, and long, because what is realistic on the long term is not necessarily realistic on the short term. But still, these three terms exist. And you need to cut the project into independent chunks, which is what I have somehow done here. And if possible, teamwork. Distribute the work if you can, and don't do that alone. As an example, because this all sounds really abstract, we are going to see how we could prepare a research project on the question of how to improve the women literacy in Afghanistan, which is quite a subject. And it's the opportunity for me to introduce this really famous sentence from a Frenchman from the time of the Revolution, Danton, which said in French, après le pain, l'éducation est le premier besoin d'un peuple, which means after bread, education is the first need of people. So, when you choose a research project like that, of course you need to choose a topic. And at this point, any topic is valid. Honestly, any. But still, the initial topic must be broad. Broad meaning that it must not just interest you, it just include also as many other people, countries and periods as possible. And it must be attractive. So as I said, attractive for you, but you must be able to attract the interest of other people, at least because you will need to gather fundings and resources. And finally, you need to be able to formulate that as a short, straight question. So if we take the question that we were having, how to improve the women literacy in Afghanistan, the topic here is obviously sociology, education. How to make it broad? Well, we talk specifically about Afghanistan, but women illiteracy, it's not just limited to Afghanistan. It's a worldwide phenomenon. Unfortunately, many countries are affected, and this phenomenon is not dying down. It's not something that is on the brink of extinction. It's something that is growing. So it's a real concern. So it's not just you and your village. It's the world. And how can you attract the interest of people? Well, educated women means ordinary, better resource management for the families, for the society. So it means a more stable society. these women are ordinarily more stable psychologically, so they are happier, they are less depression, less suicide, and all this together leads to a more prosperous economy. So educated women participate to the cultural influence and the economy of the country. So for this reason, when we say we need women to be educated, it's not just because we want to learn mathematics. It's because it's a need at the level of the country and the society. And finally, we need to formulate that in a short, straight question, which is how to succeed in educated women. The last point here, I was writing it as frame it as an elevator pitch. So this strategy of the elevator pitch is really important for you to synthesize your thoughts. So when you think about a research project, what you can do, it's natural to go in all directions, have many ideas. The elevator pitch works like that. Okay. Imagine you enter an elevator, or you go in the stairs if you don't have an elevator, and suddenly you find the most important person of the country. And this person is ready to listen to you. That's a kind person, she's really important. Ordinarily, this person is super busy, but this person is just there. 5 seconds. You have 5 seconds with this person. You need to present your project in 5 seconds. And you must do that so that you attract the attention of this person. Once you have attracted this attention, maybe this person is going to give you 30 seconds more. So then you can keep developing, but you have only 30 seconds. These 30 seconds are then enough because this man or this woman is going to give you 2 more minutes. And then you can develop further in 2 minutes. And after 2 minutes, maybe you have 1 hour and so on and so forth. It's important to practice this elevator pitch because it's a way to first synthesize your thoughts into a short question, into a short sentence, something that marks the mind, and then be able to develop the thoughts gradually. 5 seconds, 30 seconds, 2 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe 2 hours. If we take the example, imagine imagine you are in the elevator and you have this really important person, someone that you always wanted to talk with, someone who has when this person talks, presidents listen to. You have 5 seconds and this person asks you, what are you doing in your life? And you say, and you can say, we want to find a way to give Afghan women an education. 5 seconds, that's it. And you say, okay, tell me more about that. And say, well, there are many barriers to education, and it can be cultural, it can be poverty. Of course, they are banned from school. It was written in newspaper, they were banned from school and university, but there is also a lack of teachers, there is a lack of books, and this is a catastrophe. The man said, okay, so you really need to do that, but how are you going to do that? And say, I have 2 minutes more. And say, okay, so we have the idea, like for instance, we find some girls who have an advanced level of mathematics, and when we make group of friends, and we make some kind of clandestine lectures, we exchange book through USB sticks, and so we have really these clandestine lectures where in the end the students can pass exams, like standard exams. Of course, they are not in the university, but still they can probe and test what they have learned, and then we ask ourselves, can we reach an exam success so that they are able to claim a level? So you see, in the elevator pitch, we started from a few seconds to a few minutes. We started from a condensed form of what you want. This is the core, the deep core of what you want to do. And then basically you grow and grow, and you get also more and more practical. So it's really important. It's not just research projects. This elevator pitch techniques is really important to learn how to structure the way you argue, because the way you do that is like for this tree, you start with something really simple, just one trunk, which is the most important thing in your project or in what you want to say. And then the more space you have, the more time, then you say, okay, when there are also these 3 branches, and if they give you more space, you can say, oh yeah, there are also these little branches, and down to the leaves. Which means what not to do is, if you need to present a research project, to say, oh, there are leaves, and here there is an apple, and in here there is a bird, and here there is another branch, oh yes, and there is a trunk. No, don't do that. Okay, so imagine you have found a research project. You are able to describe this project through the elevator pitch. You know it's a valid subject. It's something you want to do. Now what? Remember, when a project is complex, we need to cut it in small pieces. The first piece is to define your constraint. I'm going to give you the example after. Then to specify your question. So specify, make your question specific. So instead of saying women in Afghanistan, say for instance, women in this suburb, or women from these villages, something that is more specific. The third step is then to document yourself. So documentation, which is also named bibliography, is to read. It can be also talking with people. What has been done, so that you don't reproduce the mistakes of before, that you can benefit from the work of others. And once you have done that, you are ready to do the design of the protocol. Design of the protocol, this is probably the most complex part of this. I will just leave it that for here. I will give you an example, but we will spend more time on that later. And yes, it's long, it's complex, but the way you reach a mountain is just 1 foot, 1 step, 1 foot, 1 step, one after the other. And in the end, you reach. So let's take our example. So the main question is, we want to improve the women education in Afghanistan. What are our constraints? Our constraint as a young girl in Afghanistan is, I have no access to any governmental institution. No ministry, no school, no library. Then safety of person. If I do that too publicly, I may have problems, or my family may have problems. I need to be careful. Limited reach means that it's difficult for me to check with people from Balkh or Mazar Sharif, or I cannot travel a lot. Okay, women in Afghanistan, it's really hard for them to travel. No money. Okay, let's say 0 budget. And because we are in the scope of the lecture, it's quite a short term, 2 months. Okay, so within 2 months, this project must be done. So as you can see, the constraints, I'm going to be honest, they're tight. But we can still do something. Because based on this constraint, you need to make your question more specific. So given the constraints, how are you going to make your question being practical? So first, Okay, imagine you live in Kabul, you live in a big city, then you're going to focus on people in the city, so urban students. And because you don't have a whole academy, many teachers, first there must be girls with some experience of the university. For safety reason, it's better if the family agree on that, so they will need supporting family, and there should be a need for what they're going to learn, of course. You're not going to teach them something that they don't care about. So basically, the sample, so that's one word that you will hear repeatedly. The sample that you are going to use for your question is going to be representative of the urban educated young women in Afghanistan. It's quite important because you see here that we already have the constraints and so also the scope of the research. Is that going to work for small villages? Really young girls in small villages? Not necessarily. It does not mean that the analysis has no value, but it has a scope, like a square of validity. Third, documentation. So documentation, school books, of course. You will go after school books. You may go after manuals, so textbooks about how to teach. It's quite a job how to teach. So you may look for books on that, and you may ask all people, teacher, on their experience on clandestine learning. Once you have done that, you are ready for the protocol. So the protocol, I told you, it's quite complex, but you can here get a glimpse. A protocol is really the description of the practical steps that you are going to take, the practical actions, as precisely described as possible. So here, for instance, given the constraints, given the question, given the documentation, you will say, okay, for the sake of safety, for instance, feasibility, maximum 10 friends, 10 students. We will need 2 friends that will be volunteer to teach. Yes, we have no teacher, so the best of us must teach the other. We will communicate through Telegram. Safety again. We will gather in person twice a week to make sure that people keep working, that they don't give up. So it's the short term, so just 2 months. You are going to focus on one given book. You see, it must be really practical. You talk about the assignments, and also really important, the expectation, the end of the project. How do you measure the success? Something we can call a metrics or an observable. These are all other important words that you will hear also. The metrics can be, for instance, the statistics of attendance or the statistics of success in the exercises and in the exam. So the conclusion of all of that is after 2 months, if you do that, how is that related to the question? You say, okay, how to improve the women literacy in Afghanistan? You say, if we focus on urban educated young women, with the work we have done, we have proved that given this method of teaching clandestine lectures, we were able, for instance, to have a mathematic level, to reach a level in mathematics of a given rate. You write everything, and this is a research paper. This is a research project. So, we have learned the overall steps. This is really high-level steps to ensure the validity of a research project. What is a good research project? A good research project must go through these different steps that I have described in the past slides. And for this, I want you for the next week as an assignment, I want you to find a topic. Like I did for the women literacy. Find a topic. I want you to ensure its validity. So validity means write about the broadness, the interest, the general interest, and condense it as a simple question. Okay, so focus on these three points here. It can just be 2 lines. Okay, you don't need to write pages. 2 lines are enough. A topic can be honestly. Some people did that on the network of relations they have, on how to limit pollution by plastic papers, for instance. So I want also to condense that into a really simple question. Define your constraints. This is, I think, really close to what we have done. Make your question specific. We are not going to do really the documentation and the bibliography, but I want you to come with some ideas what you could read. Where, for instance, I could read academical articles. I could ask this person of this person, and if you can, a protocol design. But as I said, it doesn't need to be extremely precise at this level. A few lines. If you don't have an idea for a project, I want to propose you this one, which is solving the water problem in Kabul. Because there are many problems in Afghanistan. There is a solution for each problem. And one of these problems is the accessibility to drinkable water, to the amount of water also. So you can imagine that if you take this project here, so it's basically already condensed into a general question, the broadness, the attractiveness are quite obvious. How can make it more specific? I think I want to have your input on that. Protocol design, I will be curious what you can see about that. So if you don't have one subject that you really want to investigate, I want your thoughts on that. And I emphasize, I don't expect you to write 10 pages, okay? You can really have just a couple of lines for each of them. Thank you very much. As you can see, the lectures are going to be more and more complex, but I am here to help you if you have any question. Good luck.